I'm so freaking excited for my guest today. This is one of my favorite humans in the world. This girl has such infectious energy. Skyleigh McCallum from Kamloops, BC. I have known Skyleigh for over 3 years. She is one of the most outgoing, personable, contagious humans. She's built a very successful business at a very early age. Just turned 30, badass team leader. She's joining us here at Sims Coaching Systems as a coach because we're so impressed with her. And I am just super excited to talk to you for the next 30 minutes, girl. So welcome to the podcast.
Do you see my little happy dance?
I saw your little happy dance. It's awesome. By the way, Skyleigh has a nickname. Skyleigh has a nickname.
No.
Smiley Skyleigh. Every time I say it, you smile. You can't help it.
I know. My cheeks actually hurt every time we hang out.
So Skyleigh, tell us a little bit about your journey into this crazy business of real estate. I mean, I think people need to know your story. It's pretty interesting.
I was kind of crazy. I was actually just telling a friend about it earlier today after we talked about our why during the coaching this morning. It ended up coming up in conversation, like how I kind of got started. And I was actually serving, and I had served for 6 years beforehand from the service industry. It makes sense getting into real estate from being in the service industry. But I always worked so freaking hard, and I never seemed to get the promotion, and I never seemed to catch a break. And I just worked so freaking hard. I was pregnant with my daughter. I worked 22 days straight trying to bank some cash so that when I went on mat leave, I had some extra money in our account. And it ended up being that I decided I really like working. So after I had her, I ended up going back part-time and working every Sunday. I had the best shift. It was the 11 a.m. on the Sunday, and I was supposed to get off at 4 o'clock. And you made really good money. I was able to handle the whole floor by myself. And it ended up being that I just kept getting shafted, and I kept having this boss breathing down my neck. It was actually, my boss was actually great. It was actually the manager, the new manager, and he didn't get it. He didn't have kids. He kept asking me to stay late. Nursing mom, and any mom who's listening to this, I was exploding. I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. And he wouldn't let me go. And so I woke up, it was literally the straw that broke the camel's back. I always knew that I wanted to do something for me, that I could help others and have no ceiling for my income. And I wanted to be at home with my kids. And I wanted all the things that real estate offered. And I just didn't really know where I wanted, I didn't know I was meant for real estate. As crazy as that is, I always tell this story, and I'm I slept walk into real estate. I never actually knew that this is what I wanted to be, and I didn't know I was meant to be a business owner. And so it ended up being that there was a regular at the pub. He was a mortgage broker, and I went and I interviewed him to be tell me what your job looks like all these things, because I was you're here all the time. You obviously make good money. What is it that you're doing? And so I ended up meeting with him, and he was you would be a really good realtor. And I actually woke up with my real estate license 3 months later, as crazy as that is.
Wow.
3 months later. And I fired my boss. And the crazy part is about all of that is that I got into it for very personal reasons for my kid. And then again, talking about our whys today, you need a really strong why to keep going, especially in this industry. The failure rate's 87% in 5 years. Yeah. And so as you go through it and you're kind of climbing through the business poo, you're you need a bigger why. And so it ended up being that I went through a crazy roller coaster in my first 3.5 years. And then I woke up and was I really want to help other realtors be successful and not make the mistakes that I made, and hopefully get past that 87%. You know what I mean? So anyways, that's how I ended up here. And that's how I stumbled upon you, is that our broker was you guys need to meet. And so walked into your life, and 3 years later, here we are.
It was fate, Skyleigh. We were meant to collaborate. Fate. We were meant to hang out, become really close friends. Skyleigh, so here's the deal. All right. You're a mom. You have 2 beautiful kids, the cutest little kids ever. And you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur, you're all of these things. And I understand real estate from a man's perspective, right? Being a father, we kind of joke. I kind of always tease you, right? Because, you and I are both the main breadwinners in our households, and we have spouses that really support us behind the scenes. And so my situation, is maybe more like the traditional situation. Yours is kind of the opposite, which is really cool. And I like that. I think it's really unique. But how do you juggle that being mom? Like you're the superhero of the family. Like your kids, at the end of the day, when they hurt themselves, they're going to want you over dad. It's just the way it is. So how are you juggling the pressures of being that entrepreneur, being mom, being a wife, all of that, and keeping your sanity? Because I think there's a lot of people, especially women right now, that are in the same boat as you that are going to be like, how do you do it?
I've actually had so many people reach out to me about that question. And even like some of my good friends who didn't have kids that were in the business world were like, well, if you can do it, then I can do it. And I'm like, yes, of course you can do it. I think that it's important to build your schedule. And that's like for anybody, making sure you time block in time for yourself and time for your family is obviously important. Because if you don't, like they're not going to like in the business world, you can work 24 hours a day. And
It's
like,
true.
yeah, you'll get somewhere faster, but are you going to enjoy the ride along the way? Probably not. And I don't want to like blink and all of a sudden my kids be in college and I'm like, man, I just like missed all of it. So for me, like I try really hard to block things off and like I take my daughter to brownies once a week and then we make sure that my husband takes her to jujitsu because that's his thing. And then I make sure that we have like one-on-one time with each of the kids. And I mean, that's really good for their personal development too. But you know what's kind of funny about all of it is that I mean, there's parent guilt and then there's mom guilt. Like mom guilt's like next level. And I think maybe there's also societal norms that say like the mom is supposed to stay home and that kind of like pulled on me a lot too. Like even like my parents and then like my aunts and my uncles, like they came from this demographic of like that the mom is supposed to take care of the kids and it's normal for the dad not to be around all the time. And so number one, real estate makes it flexible so that I can juggle my schedule. But two, the part that was funny that I was trying to touch on is the fact that I was so paranoid that my son Huxon, because I raised Hadley until she was 2.5 before she went to daycare, and did real estate, which is another whole conversation. But with Huxon, Cody stayed home with him. 7 days after he was born, I was gone working again, which is what I love. But I was so paranoid that he wasn't going to like me as much as Hadley did. And I was like, no, like I still want my kids to want mommy. And like, I still want like them to be like absorbed in me. And I think there's just something about being the mom that even though like I wasn't around to like nurse him the whole time and I wasn't around to like wake up with him in the middle of the night all the time, like because obviously Cody took on like a more dominant role for that stuff just because I'm like, I need to get up in the morning. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so it ended up being that he actually picks me over Cody in the end. And I thought I was so worried that he wasn't, and he still does. So there just must be something about mom that is never going to go. So for all the moms out there that are paranoid that their kids aren't going to like them as much, they still do. Like I'm still number one, as crazy as that is, even though I obviously have to kind of juggle everything. But
Well, it's not crazy. I mean, at the end of the day, when you want to feel nurture, you go to mom. If you hurt yourself, you go to mom. I mean, there's things that like as dads that we do that are different. The way we play with our kids is different. You know, I think dads are more fun when it comes to that. But when it comes to just like, who do you want affection from? And like that beautiful, I call it the beautiful feminine energy. Like mom, just, you have that. And it's just like the most contagious thing. I was a mama's boy growing up. But who helped shape me the most was my dad, but who nurtured me the most was my mom. And, you
yeah,
know, and when I was a little kid, I mean, that's who I wanted. So you're a great mom. I know you are. I see, and I've
thank
listened to
you.
how your kids talk to you and stuff like that. And it's just really cute. So you've done an amazing job. And you know what? You're showing your kids that like, listen, you know, it doesn't have to be the traditional roles. Like mom is out doing her thing and dad is being there, and it's cool. Like, you know, everything is about finding what works for you. And I think that's really cool as a young professional. And you're only 30. This is the crazy thing that blows my mind. I feel like an old man sometimes. Like, geez, I'm 39, almost 40. Here you are, all these accomplishments at 30 years old, mom, all these expectations on you. And you're just like keeping a really great attitude. You always seem to really keep it together, which is really uplifting. I'm sure it's not always that easy behind the scenes. So what are some of the things that you've noticed coming into real estate that are different than what you thought they would have been? What are some of the things you've seen in the industry? I'm curious if we both have felt the same thing, because I had some ideas of what the business was like, and then really what it turned out to be was very different. So I'm curious your perspective.
I mean, I knew fucking nothing. Like, I knew nothing. I was like, oh, I'm going to go sell houses. Like, yay. You know, like I didn't actually realize that when you're a realtor, like you're running a business and there's systems that you have to implement and there's like, you are so legally responsible for people. I didn't realize that. And when you graduate from school, it's like 1001 ways not to get sued, but it doesn't tell you how to obtain clients. It doesn't tell you how to like run sales pipelines. It doesn't tell you how to nurture them and get referrals. It doesn't teach you. You get out of school and you know absolutely nothing. Like it was drinking from a fire hose. And I'm like a pretty smart person, and I remember being so overwhelmed. And I was so grateful that I decided to join a team. Like there's a lot of realtors out there that try and go at it on their own, and good for them. Like good for them. But I mean, if there was one thing that I would do over and over and over and over again, it would be getting on a team. Like having those people teach you what you need. I think is super important. I would do it time and time again. And like getting that mentor, right? But yeah, it was a lot different than I thought that it was going to be, because it's commission based. You have to go get your clients. You have to put the work in. And I mean, I wasn't scared of work. 100% I wasn't scared of work. I think it was just like a lot more than I thought. And things fall through the cracks. And if you aren't paying attention, like it's super easy to like start sliding backwards.
Oh,
What did you
100%.
think?
Well, coming into the industry, so I had rose-colored glasses, Skyleigh. I thought, okay, the industry is going to be like this kumbaya, collaborative, let's share each other's playbooks and help each other type of industry. And when I got into it, it turns out it was nothing like that. It was very much like me versus you. It's kind of like this adversarial culture, and everybody's sort of out for themselves. People can be nice to each other, but at the end of the day, there wasn't a lot of like real true level collaboration. And it was quite interesting. Here I was coming in, and I had a lot of success early. And I think a lot of that is everything that I went through to get into the real estate industry. So, a lot of people don't see the 16 years before real estate, but that's really what helped shape that first year for me. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I just believe that, like, you know what? I'm going to be an open book. I'm going to share my secrets with people. I'm going to like help give value to people. And I didn't see anybody in my market as my competitor. Honestly, I saw them as my colleagues. And here's the thing, Skyleigh, I can literally give you the shirt off my back, give you all my secrets in real estate, but you still have to go put in the work. You have to learn, practice, develop those same
Yeah.
skills to the competence that I have. By the time you figure that out, it'll take you years. And I'm already that many years ahead of you. So like for me, I never looked at it with a scare.
10%. Hey, it's like 10% of people will actually go do the stuff that you are sharing with them. As crazy as that is. So, number one, you shouldn't be scared to share your playbook anyway. I mean, the more value you add to other people, the more it's going to come back to you anyway. It's all just like energy, right? Like I really do believe in like the universe and energy and all that stuff. Like the more you give out, the more that'll come back. Like Cody always says that like everything comes up Skyleigh. Like he's like, oh, it's coming up Skyleigh, like all the time. And I'm like, yeah, it's because like you just keep giving. Like if you live with abundance, it'll just keep coming back to you. But you're right. I remember when I first started, there was a guy that I worked with in the office, and he said, what did he say to me? He's like, this is the weirdest industry in the entire planet. And I was like, okay, why? And he's like, because you're getting into an industry where you have to work well with the other people in the industry, but they're technically your competition. And I'm like, I never thought of it that way. I didn't think about it that way. Like it wasn't even in my frame of mind. Even the people in our office were technically our competition, and I never once was in competition. I'm like, I would rather be in competition with myself to be better and add more value to other people rather than be in competition and like have a scarcity mindset around the people in the office. So I even remember when like leads would come in from the website and it'd be like husband signed up underneath me, and then the wife ended up signing up under Henry, for example, and we both found out. And I'm like, you know what, Henry, just take it. Just take it. And I every single time I got 3 more. Right. Every time. Like right. I never, every time that happened, I just gave it away. I'm like, no, it's okay. Like you take it. And it always came back.
I'm going to say that is like really nice insight right there that you just provided. Anybody listening right now, like it may seem like a small thing, but the more you give, the more you get back. And one of the things that I always tell people, as you become more of a giving person by nature and it just becomes who you are, just be prepared that the universe is going to bless you. And you have to be willing to accept. It's okay to give, and you should always give, but it's also important for you to be open to receiving. And I love that we align on those values. And that's why, we get along so well. One of the things that I loved about you too is that you always say, you're like, you know what? Things just work out for me. You have this optimistic nature about you, and you're just like, you know what? Things just work out for me. And I think you manifest so many positive things because you just choose to have this very positive outlook. You're like, you know what? Things are just going to work out for me. So talk to people about the power of that. Where did that come from?
No, honestly, like I just always seem to like give everything away, and like it always seems to work out. Like I don't even know where it came from, but I mean, we went to Orlando together last week and I booked my ticket and I had nowhere to stay and I was like, well, I guess we're just gonna go and it's gonna be fine. Like, and I mean, even they checked my bag, which I didn't want, and I'm like, well, I guess I might lose my luggage, and like I just don't feel like stressing out about anything because there's just no point. Do you know what I mean? Like the more positive you are, the better the things end up panning out for you. And I just don't feel like stressing out about that stuff. It never seems to get you anywhere. Plus, I feel happier when I don't care. So
it's so funny because like we talked about this. Our spouses are similar. You and I are more the like carefree, like it's gonna be okay. We don't sweat the small stuff, and then our spouses are sitting there stressed about like the little details and the itinerary and what's going on and what's going to happen. And I think a big reason though why you're able to manifest so much abundance and success in your life is because you don't place too much energy on those little things, and that you're able to really see the big picture. Like you booking that Orlando, you literally booked that Orlando trip on 24 hours notice. And you know what? You were able to figure out your hotel. You got a hotel for yourself. You took care of everything. But like you literally went there on 24 hours notice. Whereas I know if I was like, hey, Natasha, 24 hours notice, you're going to be in Orlando tomorrow. There's no way. There's just no way.
No, Cody too. And I ended up, the hard part is that sometimes like Cody will like do that and it'll make me like pull back even harder. Cause I mean, I'm pretty chill on a normal day, but like, I'm like, oh, now I need to be like really chill to like slow him down. We ended up missing our flight once. And he was so mad. I was like, I just really wanted a coffee. And so we ended up being in the terminal area grabbing a coffee, and they're like disconnecting the whatever that ramp or whatever from the airplane. And I'm like, no. And it's like pulling away. But you know what? It was whatever. We ended up staying an extra night in Seattle. We went shopping. We got a huge discount on clothes for the kids. I mean, we ended up eating barbecue that night. It was fine.
And thank you for saying that. And I always try and remind my wife this too. I'm like, look, you know what? Life throws a lemon at you. Make lemonade with it. It's not a big deal. Like she really struggles sometimes. It's like, okay, this is the plan. And then something gets thrown at the plan and it just throws it off a little bit. She really has a hard time recovering from that. And I think there's probably people in the audience that are listening to this that feel the same way, where like they struggle. But I think for you and I, we're just like, okay, whatever. It is what it is. Let's adjust course and move on. So in your case, you're like, hey, we have another night in Seattle. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah. I would rather not, I think it's not even real estate related, but I would rather not even plan stuff like that because then you don't have a thing to be disappointed by.
Right.
And I'm like, if it all pans out.
But let's talk about this though, okay? So in order for you to be the badass entrepreneur and all the things that you do, there is a strong person behind the scenes that's trying to keep all this together because, like, let's be honest, you're not the most organized person by nature, clearly. Neither am I.
I know.
So we have some amazing people that, support us behind the scenes. So why don't you talk more about that and how important it is for people that are in this business who are running families and relationships? How important is that spouse and that rock in order for you to do what you do?
Like super important. Like he put my suitcase away when I got home because otherwise like it would still probably be in my room. Like there's certain things that I can be really organized with, and then there's other things that I'm not. Like you have to kind of pick and choose your battles, but if you don't have that person kind of picking up the pieces, then you're never really going to get to where you need to go. And that's not even just like your home life, but like even thinking about your business. Like everybody has strengths in that as well. And so like delegating and people actually using their superpowers, as you like to call it, is really important in order to hold a team up, because one person can't do it all. Like all the
Right.
personality types that are out there, one person cannot physically do it all. So it's good to find people in your circle. And obviously you pick a spouse. You don't pick your spouse for a random reason. Like they end up actually filling in holes that you have within yourself. And like that was something that actually came from one of our counselors. Like everybody should go to counseling, by the way. But it ended up being like you don't pick your spouse by accident. Like you pick them because they actually fill these holes and they end up patching things that you lack in. And so it kind of makes sense the way that it ended up working. And even thinking about it on a business front, when you pick your assistants and you pick other people to be a part of your team, you should probably pick different personality types than you. Because if everybody is the same, then you're going to just be in the same spot. It makes no sense. Like you need different superpowers in order to actually get from point A to point B. And that's for everything, business / personal. And that's probably the same reason that you and Natasha work so well, is because she holds up things that you probably would have crash and burn, similar to me.
We balance each other out beautifully. Like we are opposites in so many ways, honestly. And sometimes, that's where we bump heads on dumb things. But really, I appreciate how well she keeps, like, I call her the glue in the family, right? She keeps like things organized and structured and allows me to go pursue my dreams and ambitions. And in return, I provide her the ability to choose what she does with her time. So it's like a really nice yin and
Mm-hmm.
yang. And I think that's really, really cool. Now, what are some of the challenges for you? Because again, for me, I'm in more of what you'd call the traditional role, right? Like man is out making the money, wife's at home, more dealing with the kids. You're like doing the opposite. And I can imagine that maybe comes with some challenges, maybe for other like career minded women that might be in a similar role to you. What are some tips and tricks and things that you've learned along the way that have made this work? Because I could imagine it's not without struggles.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of touched on this the other day too, because like men and women are so different. Like even if we're talking about it from like a biological standpoint, is men cycle on a 24-hour clock. Like you don't think men have cycles, but they do. It's a 24-hour clock. Women cycle on a 28-day cycle. And so we, like if you're thinking about it in that sense, like that you have different powers throughout the month as a woman. Men have different powers throughout the day as a man. But a lot of times, I mean, traditionally speaking, men have been the one who have run businesses and have been the entrepreneurs historically. And so now women are coming into the industry and they're wanting to go just as hard as the men do, and they want to keep up and they want to do all these things, but then the burnout in women is so substantial that it doesn't last. And I mean, there are women out there that obviously push right through it, but it's not healthy. And so background about myself, my hormones are actually really off balance, and that's because I have been keeping up with people like you. Like it's not, and I've done a lot of research on this and I've listened to a lot of books. There's actually one called Do Less by Kate Northrup for all the women out there. And it kind of talks about your cycle and how you can use that to actually be more powerful within your business. And it's wild to think about, but everybody has hormones, men included. Like you guys have a lot of testosterone, which is like the go, 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 go. Women have it too, but it kind of goes like this throughout like the month. And so if you actually, talking about burnout again, like if you actually use that power and like rest when you're supposed to rest, and you brainstorm when you're supposed to brainstorm, and you implement when you're supposed to implement, and you end up leaning on the people within your team that have those different superpowers, you're going to be able to get a lot further. There's some badass women in business, and I almost guarantee you that they lean into it instead of pulling away. And I think
Right.
it's really important to actually like think about that, because otherwise you're going to burn out. And it's not healthy. Like you can get cancer, you can get like all these types of disorders and like diseases from not listening to your body. So I think it's really important that we understand as women that we aren't going to operate the same way that men do. We can be just as successful 100%, but you're going to have to do it in a different way. And I think it's okay to
I
actually
agree.
to think about it, you know?
I agree. And I think as a society, we try and kind of like use the same ways of like how we treat women and men, and we try to make it the same. And we try to say that like men and women are the same. But I've always believed that we're not the same. And that doesn't mean that men are better than women or women are better than men. It means we have different
Yeah.
superpowers. And, we've talked about this on our coaching calls, right? Masculine needs feminine, feminine needs masculine. Those energies really like balance each other out,
Yeah.
and they really work well together. And so, one of the things that I think is one of your superpowers, and I've always said this from the minute I met you, is like you have this radiating personality, and like you just give off this very nurturing, comforting energy that people want to be around you. It's like contagious. It's like something that is your superpower. And so I think it's really cool that you have the self-awareness too of understanding how your superpowers may shift throughout the month. And I've never thought about, being a man and like how I have hormonal cycles, but I bet you I do, because there's times
You
where I'm
do.
like,
It's crazy.
why
We
am I
only ever
moody?
talk about it in women, but men do too. It's so weird.
It is weird. It's interesting. But I think the whole thing that I always preach is, it's like, what works for you, right? Find what
Yeah.
works for you. Find a supportive spouse that like can get behind your ambitions. I think that's the biggest thing. And my first marriage, my wife, she was a great woman, and I still am really dear friends with her, but she never really understood my ambition. She didn't understand the why behind it, and she couldn't really get behind that. Whereas Natasha really has embraced and understood like that desire that I have to make impact and to be a leader and to go
Yeah.
build. And so by her believing in me and doing that, it's allowed me to then be able to give her the opportunity to have the choice of time. She really wanted family when we got together. So the best gift that I could give her was the ability to have time to really settle in and pursue that family. Like you, though, she realized that she doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mom all the time. It just wasn't her jam. And so, we've worked on creating scenarios where she can have some childcare and things like that. And so she can go pursue, she's going to be a holistic nutritionist, and she's able to
Oh
go
my
pursue.
God, I didn't know that. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So she's also pursued, a business. She's running a fashion business on the side. And so it's really cool that she has the ability to do that, but it meant her sacrificing certain things for me and vice versa. And it sounds like you and Cody have done the same thing, right? Whereas he's maybe sacrificed some of his ambitions and career to be able to support you in what you do. But that's created this amazing environment for your kids. Your kids have two parents who love them, and, it's fostered a really healthy environment. So shifting away from that, let's talk about like your future as a coach and a mentor, because I think you're going to be able to make a massive impact on the world and help a lot of people out there. So you're going to be involved in our academy upcoming, which is exciting. Our Sims Academy, we're making huge breakthroughs. We had some tears flowing on today's session. That was really, and positive tears, right? Like people really like connecting to their purpose and their why. What are you most excited about this new chapter of you taking on this leadership role in mentoring and helping others?
I think just being able to help substantially more people, because I was running a mastermind group here in town, and there's a lot of people that I have like that back me and that are on our team already. But I can't remember where I heard this from, but I heard this once, and it was like, do you know the difference between a teacher and Tony Robbins? And the difference is the amount of people you can impact in a day. And so like he doesn't have a secret sauce. Like he doesn't. And like, there's so many people out there that have all these wonderful things to share and add value to other people. It's just that they don't have access to enough people to cause that big of an impact. But Tony Robbins does. Obviously he's created a crazy, wild, massive business, 100%. But the cool thing about that is that the education around it and that the value that we have that we can give to other people is that the more people that you can help and the more value you can add, the bigger the impact is going to be. And so I'm super excited because I've already been trying to add impact into other people's lives, and us going into business together is just going to make it so that I have a larger platform and that I am going to resonate with more people and that we are going to help more and that we are going to change more people's lives. Like, it's just so exciting that like what I have done, I've been in real estate 7 years now, and like what I've been able to create for my family and like with the team, and then same with you, you've been in real estate 7 years, and what you've been able to create, like being able to share that with like a larger audience because we're going to like team up and do it together, I think is probably the most exciting part about all of it. Yeah, like the impact that we're going to have on like a very large amount of people. Like I want it to explode because I want everyone to be successful. Going back to my why and thinking about like all the people that are in the industry that I used to be in who don't get to call in sick or don't get to call in when their kid is sick, who don't get to make it to the baseball games, who don't get to go to the dance recitals. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much more to life than working and grinding 9 to 5 where no one gives a fuck about you. And so if we can impact more people and help more people grow businesses and be entrepreneurs and add value and all that kind of stuff, like in return, we're going to do very well for ourselves. But I just can't tell you how happy it makes me to wake up every single day to be able to help that many more people. Like, there's just so much more to life than working 40 years, retiring, and have nothing to show for it, and never spending any time with your family.
I love it. By the way, I didn't even mention this, but like, Skyleigh has investment properties. She's done some flips. She's pretty handy. Like, I mean, is there anything you can't do?
Don't even.
Is there anything, like, seriously, like Superwoman, anything you can't do?
Yes. I am very bad at math. Don't play crib with me.
Okay. Apparently, Skyleigh's not the person that can do great math. Well, you know what? I wasn't great at it either, to be honest with you. So I think you and I have this in common. I think we really care about people deeply, and we can see people's superpowers. And I think we really get energized being around people. So look, I am so excited for people to get to know you and see the impact that you're making. Like, this is literally just the beginning of something super positive and great. As somebody that's become a very dear friend to me over 3 years here, Skyleigh, I can't thank you enough for believing in us too, and wanting to say, you know what, I want to be a part of that too, and saying yes to the opportunity. It means a lot. You're a very, very, very smart young woman. I wish I had your knowledge and wisdom at 30. I think you're going to make a massive impact, and I just appreciate you dearly. And thank you so much for your time today. I think this is super valuable.
I'm very excited for our future. It's going to be amazing. How
do people get a hold of you, Skyleigh? If people want to talk to you and get your brilliance and just want to pick your brain, what's to reach you?
Okay, well, my email address is skyleigh@forevercanvas.com, or you can reach me at skyleigh@simscoachingsystems.com or .ca. You need to ask Brian.
.com.
Or you can probably Google me, because my face is everywhere when you Google. Plus, you can't miss the traffic cone on my head. So you'll find me, I'm sure. Instagram, Facebook, you know it.
Awesome. Skyleigh, have an amazing day. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this half hour with you.